Greetings, my golden friends. Today we have another episode from Belarus, and today's topic is huge desires. So get ready. It's a long video. I have a lot of notes, and I suggest for you also to get a pen and some kind of notebook to write things down. It's good for your spiritual growth. It's a lot of exercises in this video that you can practice within your life. And the first one that you can start with, you might not know exactly how many you have at this moment that you're aware of, desires. So start writing in a notebook all your desires. Number one, number two, number three. I want, I wish for. And you'll be surprised that in one day you're not going to be able to put them all down. It's going to be a long list of couple weeks or months or years project. But in this video, we're going to talk about eliminating desires and why it is such a good idea. So let's start with idea that it's been in all religions, the desire is being personified. So they're not talking about your personal desires, like I wish for something, right? They say there's something between you and God, and there's a person. And in Christianity, that person is Satan. In Islam is Shaitan. In Buddhism is Mara. In Hinduism is Asura, and so on. I'm sure other religions have some kind of devil that stands between you and God, and that's personified your desires. That's the idea of all religions, that desire within you stands between you and God. So once you destroy that devil within you, right, you will reach God. So desires, all desires to get to God. So not knowing God, it creates this lacuna, this void, that there's something that's missing inside of me, that I need something. I want to fill that void because you don't know God. So in the first step, you have to have faith that one day you will reach God, right? So it's very good to know that one day, someday in the future, you will get there. But for now, you are full of desires and it's agitating, it's not pleasant. You're in a constant state of suffering. So in the Hinduism, I'm going to use a lot of terminology from Vedas, from Advaita Vedanta, from Upanishads. So desire, the word for desire is kama, K-A-M-A. So desire, this is the definition. It's a stream of thoughts flowing from you to the objects of the world. So something outside of you that you want. So it's objective, right? And the longer you entertain this kind of thought towards this object, the thicker becomes the flow, and you become obsessed with this desire, and sometimes nothing can stop you, including yourself. And sometimes you get in trouble because of your strong desires. And there's never saturation, there's never a point that, okay, it's enough, because desires are insatiable. And if you talk around and see what's going on in this world, never enough of money. You always want more. It's never enough. The most beautiful woman wants to be even more beautiful, and she's willing to go for plastic surgeries and all kinds of gimmicks to get there. The most powerful person wants more power. You know, I'm sure Russian president, he wants a lot more power than he has now. The most knowledgeable person, he knows a lot, but he wants to know more. The most famous person has a desire to become more famous, so more people, you know. So in yoga, which is interesting, let's talk about yoga and religion. Those two words are equal to each other. Yoga is just a little bit more ancient, and religion is a little bit newer word, but they both mean the same. Yoga comes from the word huge, unite, right? Religion comes from two words, re, ligare. Re means again, do again, repeat, and ligare means unite, reunite again. So religion is for reuniting again you And yoga is for you to reunite with God. So they're both the same, so there's no need to fight and say our religion is better than yours. It's a philosophy. That's what you want to get from the religion. But unfortunately, even those who preach, they are so lost within their desires that they cannot properly explain how to get there. And there are three mostly typical desires, kinds of desires that you have. You have physical, emotional, and intellectual desires. Just like you have physical personality, your physical body, your emotions, like you feel something, and then your intellect. So a few examples. Physical desire could be a chair so you can sit down, nice, comfortable. Emotional, that you feel good, that you want a song that you like. You listen to this song and I want to buy this CD. I want to get this song. You like, you enjoy, and that's pleasant. Or intellectual desire, you want to get a book. You want to learn how to do something. Learn chemistry, physics, become a doctor. Intellectual. And the higher desires are intellectual, the middle are emotional, and the lowest are physical. Next thing. So to explain in a very interesting way, think about all your desires. Like you have a lot of them, and that applies pressure on you. You constantly under pressure, just like in that song, under pressure. So you're under pressure of all your desires. So imagine there's a coil spring, 4 meters, and that's its natural state, 4 meters. So when you compress it to 1 meter, you feel the pressure on your top hand, right? You feel the pressure. It's a lot of pressure from 1 meter to 4 meters. And if you release it to 2 meters, there's less pressure. 3 meters, even less pressure. And then you put 4 meters, there's no pressure at all. The spring in its natural form. So this is an interesting analogy to you and desires. When you start eliminating desires, you become more and more free. That's a liberation, or they call it moksha in Sanskrit. Moksha, liberation, when you have no desires. You are totally good with what you have, with who you are, where you are, how much you have, and all that stuff. But that's not easy. That's way probably up front for most of the people. And it is not easy. Like, good luck to you trying to convince a smoker that there is no happiness in cigarettes. It's very difficult. You have to be very intellectual to understand that there is no happiness in a cigarette, because the cigarette smoker, he gets a cigarette and immediately he feels good. Try to convince that person that, it's not good for you. He feels good. It's an emotional trick that plays on that person. Same thing with alcohol. If you tell people that there is no happiness in alcohol, they're like, are you kidding me? Every time I drink, I feel good. But let's examine these things from the other angle. Cigarette. One person has a desire to smoke. The other person hates smoking. It's like, I can't stand the cigarette smoke. So when you see those two kinds of people, you're like, wait a minute, there's really no happiness in the cigarette. It's the attitude that you have towards it. Same thing with alcohol. Same thing with the woman. One guy wants to marry this woman, and the other guy wants to divorce her. So the guy who wants to divorce her, get rid of her immediately. The other one is waiting in line to marry her. Same woman, but two different guys, and the desire or no desire. And this kind of proves to all of us that happiness is something that is within us already. It's there. You just have to find it. And there's a quote that it is not easy to find happiness within yourself, but it's impossible to find it anywhere else. So this quote, you can write it down in your spiritual notebook. It is not easy to find happiness within yourself, but it's impossible to find it anywhere else. So why do people suffer? Why do people suffer in this world? Well, the the only number one and the last one is unfulfilled desires. So you can write it down as well. Why do we suffer? It's because of our unfulfilled desires. So in the winter, when it's cold, you have a desire to be in a warm climate, and it's not happening. So a lot of people travel to get to the warmer climates in the wintertime. So I used to live in New Jersey, and a lot of people move back and forth if they have money and lifestyle allowing them to do that. So they are chasing that sunshine, chasing that happiness in a climate. But if you can't change. The climate is as it is. So enjoy it as it is. Some people have a desire to eat a lot of candies, but they don't have a desire to have tooth decay. So again, usually most people now understand if you do eat a lot of candies, sweet sugar, you will get tooth decay and some other health issues. So, one desire leads to another, and then you can go on and on. You want to have sex with a woman and not to have children, but oops, the condom breaks and you have a family now. So the desires are the root of the evil within us, and if you put the cross on it, if you destroy that desire, then you reach the godhood within yourself. I'll tell you a story. I remember when I used to work in New Jersey, I was a mechanic, and there was a car coming once in a while for oil change and stuff, and it's huge van with like 7 or even more seats. And I asked my boss, like, is that probably a big family? He's like, oh yeah, they had 2 girls at first, one girl, then they had another girl, so they really want to have a boy. So they tried one more time, and oops, she had 4 girls in one shot. So now they have 6 girls, and they didn't have that desire to have 6 girls. They wanted to have 2 girls and 1 boy. But, you just don't know with these things, So I remember years and years ago, somebody told me, in Buddhism, they also say the first step to enter into this religion group, you have to admit that suffering exists. So that's there almost like a preschool, kindergarten before you enter that religion. You have to admit that you suffer, and once you admit, I suffer, then there is a way to help somebody who suffers. You admit that, I have a problem, and then you can do something about it. And you can only relieve that, spiritual star within you, that spiritual spark within you, once you get rid of all the desires. There's no shortcuts. You cannot say, can I have this one left? You cannot negotiate. It's just, that's the way it is. And also all religions are saying you have to all your desires to become a saint. And to get there, one of the best things you can do is every morning read spiritual scriptures or your notes. If you're taking some notes, like I have a lot of notes and I'm still not there. You keep on writing the philosophy from one religion, 2 religion, 3, whichever speaks to you, and keep on digging until you find that divinity within yourself. So every morning, as early as you can, for an hour or less, you can read the spiritual scriptures, and you have to do it again and again. As they say, varam, varam in Sanskrit, again and again. You have to repeat it over and over. Every morning you remind yourself that you have to do this work. It's not easy, but you have to keep on reading and getting more knowledge and slowly letting go of desires. So that's why they have such a thick books about God. The Bible is big, right? Torah, Talmud, Bhagavad Gita, all these books are super thick. So there's not just like, because theory is really easy. If you just write down, you are already that free spark within you. Just let go of the desires. You don't need to read a lot, but that helping you, the knowledge that they absorbed for a long, long time, it's much easier for you to get rid of your desires if you read something more interesting. Because if you talk about God, you can talk for hours, for days, for weeks, and it's words cannot describe God, and that's the best thing you can do. Continue doing that again and again. Read these thick books, talk about God, find the good group of people who you surround yourself with, who also talk about God and do spiritual work. And of course, I suggest Indian scriptures because they're one of the most ancient on earth. And yes, they're been manipulated just like a Bible, rewritten, hidden. So when you read the scriptures nowadays, you have to use your critical thinking. Is that everything is true, or is some lies in there? And you'll find it's a lot of lies. I found myself constantly finding mistakes in scriptures, like in certain things that they suggest are totally nonsense. So be careful, but there's no easy way to enlightenment. And you cannot become enlightened and saint in one day. It's a process. It's a long process. So you can write that quote down as well. You cannot become enlightened in one day. It's impossible. And there are many students who start learning about religious practices, true religious practices, and they like, oh my God, I was so happy before I started this because, all your life you've been accumulating desires, and most of your friends and family are cheering you up. Oh, you want a new car? Go for it. You want to have more? Okay, do it. So, and now you like, oh my God, I have to eliminate the desires. So usually people get really frustrated in the beginning of their spiritual journey. So, but if it's not for everybody. Religious practice is the hardest thing to do. God is the most complicated thing to explain to anybody. That's where language loses its capacity to explain something. That's why there's so many wars based on religion. Because they all think our God is better than yours. Okay, I do have a story here about the desires. So enjoy it. You can write it down. I liked it when I heard it a few years ago. So imagine this guy lives by himself in the village, is good in his life, until one day he hears a scratch under his floor. So he calls his neighbor and asks him, like, what's going on? I have this some kind of noise, and every night it wakes me up. And the neighbor's, you have a mouse. Yeah, you can get a cat, and that will take care of it. So he gets a cat. He buys a cat. He has a desire now to get a cat, and the cat catches the mouse, and it's quiet, and he sleeps at night good. And he's like, oh, thank you, neighbor, you're the best. And in a few days, the cat is meowing at night. Meow. He's like, what's going on? So he goes to his neighbors, like, there's no more mouse, but the cat is meowing. Like, what's going on? Oh, you have to feed the cat. Get some milk and get a cow, milk the cow, and you'll get the cat to shut up. So he does that. He goes and he has a desire to get a cow. So he goes to get a cow. He milks the cow, feeds the cat. The cat is happy. He sleeps at nighttime. He's like, oh, thank you so much, neighbor. I appreciate your help. And in a few days, the cow is mooing in a shed. He's like, what's going on? The cow is mooing. So he goes to the neighbor again. Okay, everything is quiet now, but the cow's making this noise. What's going on? Oh, the cow, you need to let it out of the shed once in a while, every day actually. And and leave it on the field, let it eat some grass, and then bring it back. Oh, okay, no problem. So he does that. Thank you. Everything is good. Cow is quiet. But in few months, he comes back to the neighbor. You know what? But I'm so tired. And the neighbor's like, oh, you should get married. And that's the end of the story. I hope you got the philosophy out of it, because our desires are insatiable and they keep on exponentially growing. So let's look at the other angle, that our desires, they are actually the roots of our emotions. You can also write it down. Our desires, they are the roots of our emotions. So if your desires are fulfilled, you get what you want. For example, you got what you wanted, right? That's the desire has been fulfilled. You can have some kind of positive emotions, right, associated with it. You have some kind of happiness, bliss. Oh, I'm so happy this desire is fulfilled. And if not, you get negative emotions, right? So let's look deeper. In the first part, when your desires are fulfilled and you got what you wanted, you can also experience some kind of emotions. For example, fear. And why would you have fear? Like, emotion got fulfilled. You're happy. Well, the fear arises because you might experience the fear to lose what you got. So for example, if you got a nice car, you might get a little paranoid and get another desire to have a garage, alarm system, hire a person to guard your house or whatever. So if you have some kind of lots of gold money, you can have a desire to get a safe, bolted to your floor. If you have a wife, you might have a desire to put a ring on her, so everybody who sees her with that ring, they will not touch her. Also, they say, right? And the next emotion besides fear, you can have jealousy, right? So if you got what you wanted, the wife is beautiful, but now every guy who looks at her, you are jealous and you are afraid to lose her, So all these negative emotions, they are simply modifications of your desires. So desires not only multiply like bacteria, they also modify. They modify your emotions, turn into different ones. For example, envy. You might envy, you got what you wanted, you got a car, but then you look at, they got a better car, and you envy that they have better car, better wife, more money than you do. So the envy is modification of your desires. So also another negative emotion that you can experience is arrogance towards the people who have less than you do. And you're like, who are you? You don't have nothing. Look at me. I got everything. But besides fear and all those modifications of emotions, you can also experience the emotion of greed. You got a nice car, you got a nice wife, you got a nice chunk of gold, but now you want more. So that greed, that emotion, it destroys a lot of people, because a lot of people go for more. They want more money and they use sometimes crime to get more money, or they get in certain countries you can get a second wife legally, but in mostly Christian world it's only one wife, and a lot of people get lovers on the side, because of the greed for more, and so on. You can go in any kind of desire that it can lead to greed and avarice. Oh, by the way, there is an anecdote, there is a Russian joke. We're going to pause here because smiling is good. So imagine this guy who's really greedy, really has a problem. He comes to doctor and say, "Doctor, I'm super greedy. Can you give me some pills for it? But give me a lot, please." And that's the end of the joke. He wants a lot of pills against greed. Just once you get into that mentality, I want more. It's like in everything that you want, it's always more. I guess that's the style of life. After a while, you become really into it. More is better. And let's look at the other emotions that could be, modified from desires. Anger, that's a good one. So, for example, if you, let's take an example. Somebody loves somebody. Let's say Maria likes Jason. And all her thoughts are going towards Jason. She desires to be with him. She thinks about him. And all her, desire goes towards this particular. But here comes along Francesca. And she wants to be with Jason too. So now Maria is possibly, not always, but she can get angry at Francesca. She's interrupting, she's interfering her thought flow of desires. So anger comes from your desires as well. And we talked about there's never satiation with desires. You can constantly go for more fame, more beauty, more money, more power, more education, whatever. It keeps on going. And if you don't get what you want, you can get disappointment. That's a modification also of your desires being, modified through the fear into disappointment, apathy, like, oh, I can't. My desires are not fulfilled. I'm feeling grief. I'm feeling depression. I have worry and anxiety that my desires are not getting fulfilled. Sometimes you feel impatience or intolerance towards other people because your desire, like you standing in line and the line is long, and like, I want to be first in line. Please excuse me, I have to go. So all these emotions, negative emotions, they are all stream from your desires. So here I'm going to advertise Kichari Mudra, which is I suggest for you to watch my Kichari Mudra videos. Here I'm just going to show you how it looks like. So your tongue goes behind the uvula. Okay, so it goes behind uvula and it touches the pineal gland. Right along the nose there is a blade, and as soon as the blade ends, you feel that bumpy little thing. That's pineal gland. It looks like a pine cone inside. So once you swallow your tongue, your snake of desires, that's what the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, that's a story, seduced by the snake because you want more. Your tongue is a representation of desires. You want more. So when you swallow your tongue, you practice Kichari Mudra, you're quiet. It cools the temperature down, cools your desires, and you become fulfilled. And that's very important because you cannot meditate or pray without this Kichari Mudra. So that's one of the key elements for you to become free, to become liberated. All right, but I'm not going to talk much about this Kichari Mudra. Watch my other videos. We're going to continue going along with desires and their modifications. So all the negative emotions can lead to delusion. So after you experience certain negative emotions for a long period of time, or they're very intense, you feel fear that you don't get what you want, you feel grief, anger, you can get delusional and you can commit a crime. And you do it because you don't know God within yourself. You're not connected, right? You don't practice yoga, you don't practice religion, and feeling that void within yourself, it's really, I feel for people, because not knowing God it's hell, basically. You keep on looking for more of material pleasures, and that's only temporary, because material pleasures have beginning and the end. There's never eternal ice cream that you can eat, eternal woman that you can enjoy. It's always start and in the end. When you start practicing spiritual work, once you get to God, you get to eternities. And that's not easy, but eventually, if you practice, you'll get there. So yeah, people can get delusional. They can commit a crime, a rape, violence, just because they want something really bad. They can lie, deceive. So I have a little story to tell. A few days ago, I went to the flea market, and this guy, he really wants to sell a lot of stuff to me. And I'm smiling. I can put it in the fridge. He was selling pears, but I can only put so much. So it's like, I just need 2 kilos. I don't need. So the guy was able to talk me into 3 kilos and then 4 kilos. And I was like, all right, I'll find room. I mean, he really wants to sell. And I can feel the struggle. This guy has struggle. And the price was really high too. So I was like, oh my God. And after he did that, he shoved all these pears into, I give him a big note because I didn't have small change for that purchase. And now he has to give me some change. And I see that he has no money to give me. So he cannot get it out of the air. So he gets all these little tiny coins. And I can see that it's not enough for 1 ruble. But he's like, oh, it should be enough. I'm smiling, but I can feel that so much stress and so much. So he paid for his desire to make more money with stress. Although I made it very pleasant, I didn't say a word. I was smiling. I was, like usually, I'm in very good mood, and I was not, because I could say, this is high price. Can you give me better price? You sell me 4 kilos. I was not even doing that. I just paid how much he wanted because I wanted him to be pleased. But God works in mysterious ways. And, I can only do so much. I didn't have enough money to give him with no change to make him totally happy. Money to give me change and complete the deal without any agitation. So be careful what you wish for. A lot of your desires are so insatiable that it creates your character. It creates you, in the long run, sometimes you can get into real big trouble. So, and let's look at the next point, that all your life, most people are looking for pleasant desires and avoiding something unpleasant. That's what people look for. Likes and dislikes. I like this and I don't like that. I like this and I don't like that. So all your desires are in those 2 categories. Oh, I don't like menthol cigarettes, but I like this kind of cigarettes, Or I don't like tequila, I like vodka, or vice versa, whatever. And you keep on catering to your likes and dislikes, and many people around you, relatives and friends, are helping you to keep on balancing those desires, and you get nowhere. You keep on looking for the best smell in town, best perfume, keep on looking for best sounds, music to your ears. You keep on looking for best food for your tongue. You keep on looking for best touch. Somebody touches you in a pleasant way, right? Massage or sex. And then you're looking for best sights, something to see, best TV show, nature, whatever. Because we have five senses, and those five senses, you want to experience the world in the best possible way. And I don't blame you. I know I do the same thing. I like the best for every sight, for every sense that I. But if you try to avoid the unpleasant one, they will keep on popping into your life. So write this thing down, please. For your spiritual growth, you have to always remember there are two obstacles that will keep you. It will stop you. No, it will not stop you. It will keep you from your progress, right? So the first one is attachment. The second one is aversion. So attachment and aversion, those two obstacles, please write them down and just observe as you practice this. Spiritual work is constant, daily, routinely work. You keep on looking, what am I trying to avoid constantly? Or what am I attached to so hard that I'm afraid to let it go? So attachment and aversion, it creates friction. So you're attached to certain desire, or you have fear of certain desires. Both of them have to be conquered. So for any example, you can look into many different aspects, but let's use flowers. Women love flowers, and if they're attached to roses only, they don't like any other flowers. They have strong attachment to roses. And if people know that they like roses, they'll be giving it to them on birthday and other holidays. And if they have aversion to certain ones, they will experience certain prick every time they see these flowers. Like, ugh. So the idea is, most people are complaining why this rose is not a daffodil or some kind of other flower. They wish for everything to be the way they like it. So the middle ground is the best. You don't have attachment, and you don't have aversion either. So write those things down. Attachment and aversion will keep you away from enlightenment. Yeah, and besides that, your desires are modified in many, many emotions. They also multiply like bacteria. And as soon as your one desire gets fulfilled, immediately springs out many, many others. You went to the movie theater, you got your desire fulfilled, you watched the movie, you really liked it, but then immediately you have this desire telling your friends, oh, how about we go to this nice restaurant? So you have a desire to eat in a nice restaurant, and then maybe something else afterwards. And you just keep on going. Your whole life is fulfilling one desire, another one, another one, another one, another one. And there's no end. Well, there is an end. If you get enlightened, that is the end. So let's talk about what is this ball of desires? What is this entanglement of desires? So imagine this clue, this ball of thread that is tangled with all your desires. And in Sanskrit, there's a word for it, vasanas. So take a look at that word, vasanas. And it's something that is not material, by the way. So your desires, they're not material. You cannot measure them. And vasanas come from all your previous work. Everything that you've done in the past leads you to your collective vasanas that you have now. And usually people have a lot of them, and they keep on accumulating all their life that it gets such a huge ball of desires that you cannot eliminate them easily. So they are not material, they cannot be physically measured or analyzed. And the vasanas comes from the word vas. Vas means smell, odor. So if your previous desires were pleasant and good, you smell good. You have pleasant personality, good character. If your previous vasanas were bad, you smell bad, you stink. You just, people feel it immediately. As you walk into the room, they can smell you immediately, who you are and what's going on with your vasanas. If it's good, it's good. If it's not good, it's not good. So if your vasanas are good, it results in your good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. All those would be good. By the way, they're not the same. You might think one thing, say another, and do totally different. There is no connection between your thoughts, words, and deeds. So you have to remember it for yourself and others. If somebody said something to you, it doesn't mean that's what they think, and it doesn't mean what they do. Those three things are not related. That's another thing you can write down in your spiritual notebook. Words, thoughts, and deeds are not equal. They are not the same. And let's talk about what kind of vasanas are. So there are three kinds of vasanas. So first one is sanchita vasana. So it's a total aggregate of your desires. Everything is in sanchita. And then the second one is prarabdha. Prarabdha is the desires that released just for your life right now. This life that you live. So imagine out of all the desires in your vasana, sanchita vasana, only a small percentage has to be released for you to live this life, right? And there is also agami vasanas. They are unmanifest future life desires. So let's give example. For example, flying cars. We don't have it yet, although they say they do, but that's maybe for your future lives, that you will be able to drive, fly in the car. Same thing with cell phones. Like during the times of Jesus Christ, no matter how much you desire to have a cell phone, they just didn't have the technology back then. So it would not be manifest. But now it is available. Every country has them, cell phones. So, and then we're going to write down this formula of vasanas. The first one, agami, equals sanchita minus prarabdha. So you can write this down and then think about it, what it really means. Agami equals sanchita minus prarabdha. So agami is your future lifetime desires, right? And if you are not using your intellect during this lifetime and only go by your emotions, I like it, I would like to be, I would like to get, if you're emotional and yet you're not using your intellect, your vasanas, your desires will increase. So your spiritual work is when you can start subtracting from agami. Agami is your future desires until you reach zero. When you reach zero, you are enlightened. When you get closer to the state when you have very few desires, you are ready for meditation. You are ready for real prayer. But before that, don't even try to meditate. It's a waste of time. And everything that they teach online and group meditation, full moon meditation, it's all BS. It's all a hoax. And all these clowns, they don't know what they're doing. Meditation is the highest of the high. It's like PhD in education. And most people are in the kindergarten, spiritually they're in the kindergarten. So they have to get through the middle grade school, high school, get a degree, university, and then bachelor, and then you can meditate at the very end. And that's when you burn your vasanas completely. You become clean. You become one with God. So the prarabdha vasanas in this lifetime will get exhausted automatically, just mechanically, just like animal life. They have no choice. They just have to be animals and act as animals. There's nothing you can do. Same with us. Humans will get rid of prarabdha just the way the life goes. And let's... I'm not sure if I have it probably later. Okay, so desires cannot be eliminated by these methods. So write these things down also. You cannot eliminate your desires by, number one, indulgence. So a lot of people say, oh, this weekend, I'm just going to watch TV all day long, 2 days in a row, and I'm going to be done with it. You know, I'll quit after that. You know, or I'm gonna go to Las Vegas for the whole week, and I'm gonna gamble this whole week, and that's it. I'm gonna stop. You know, you think that you will indulge in that? Or I'm gonna go on a certain cruise and visit all these countries, and that's it. No more vacation, no more travel. I'm done. It doesn't work like that. And then number two, you cannot eliminate your desires by abstinence, that you just stay away from, because you will get frustrated. You know, you will get frustrated. That's why you have to get moderation and regulation of your desires. And then number three, you cannot eliminate your desires by ritualistic practice. So a lot of people go in pilgrimage. I'm going to go to the Holy Land of Jesus, Kaaba, or any kind of Holy Spirit at a religion, in the mountains, Himalayan mountains. You cannot. It just doesn't work that way. Also by religious vows, I quit, I stop, and that's it, because you'll get frustrated. Or by charity work. A lot of people get rid of all their money and say, that's it, I don't want anything. I'm going to get rid of my money. And once I'm empty, I'm free. You can be sitting in the street. You can be a bum. You know, you can be... But the desires are still there. You still have a desire that you did not eliminate, but you have no money now to do it. So you're going to be really... So remember, you can never simply drop your desires. You can only replace them for something better. This you can write down as well. This is really good suggestion. You can never simply drop your desires. You can only replace them for something better. And of course, God is the best replacement for all your desires. So finding God within you, you become totally fulfilled. A lot of people do, I'm not sure if it's a terminology now, I'm sure it is. I remember years ago somebody told me, oh, you need a rebound. Rebound? Was like, yeah, you're heartbroken after the relationship. You need a rebound. Find somebody and then you forget about them. So that's also a lot of people kind of believe it will help them to forget about their loved one. You know, just didn't work out, and you will replace it for something other, and then in the process you will eliminate the desire. It doesn't work that way. You know, sometimes you can fall in love. That's not a good word, because you've fallen down. When you are in love with somebody and then you shift it into the next one, it might be even worse than you think. It might start pleasant in the beginning. Usually in the beginning, everybody's trying to put themselves up front, like the best version of themselves, you know. So you would be very lucky. You'll be very, very lucky if you found a partner who seeks God. That would be the highest replacement for, all your previous relationships. But that's rare to find somebody who's really spiritually stable. So another good quote that you can write down is, sensual enjoyments are objective and impermanent, while the bliss of enlightenment is subjective and everlasting. Once again, sensual enjoyments are objective and impermanent, while of enlightenment is subjective and everlasting, eternal. So yeah, write it down. And that spark of God is already within you. You just don't see, don't know about it because of all the desires that cover it. So it covers that you're in the dark. You are in the dark. That's why enlightenment, when you really have a light. All right, so yeah, it's a gradual process. You cannot get there like in one day. And here's a better approach in eliminating the desires. So also write it down. There are two pedals. So basically in a bicycle, there are two pedals to go forward. Same thing with your spiritual work. There are two pedals. Number one, a little bit of abstinence from your desires. So that's the first suggestion. So let's take an example. You go to the movies 4 times a month. Every weekend, at least once. You go 4 times a month to see a movie. So once you start spiritual work, you might say, let's do 2. Just 2 or 1 a month, once a month. That will be enough. And now you're ready for the second step, which is that time which is freed up. You're not in the movie. So 1 hour or more you have for accumulation of spiritual knowledge. So you use that freed up time to gain more knowledge of God. And again, any kind of scriptures would do you good. Some of them are more complicated to read and understand. I do suggest Upanishads, but they are very terse, very short, quick, and ancient. So you might not know all the terminology in those kind of writings. But yeah, you have to also, if you have a good commentary to some kind of scripture, it's also good. So look around. Eventually you'll find the best books for yourself. And then the theory that you accumulate reading it will eventually lead to wisdom. The wisdom that you cannot buy. You have to accumulate knowledge first, and that knowledge will turn into wisdom. It's also a process. It also takes time. And why it's happening? Let's talk about the next Sanskrit term, udana. Udana is a capacity of thought absorption. So I have a glass of water right here. So think about yourself as a glass, and you can fill it with different kinds of knowledges, maybe different kinds of waters pouring into this glass. And once it's filled to the top, the capacity to absorb any thoughts is done. You cannot get new ideas, fresh thoughts at all. And that's why they throw children into school and kindergarten so young now, and they keep on filling them up with unnecessary, non-spiritual information. So once you wake up, it's like, wait a minute, I need to... It's already full, so all you have to do now is eliminate some and add some. So that will take some time. So you have to pour some water out, something junk, unnecessary stuff, cartoons, all that stuff that you've been watching, cartoons and movies. You have to pour it out and then fill up the spiritual knowledge. true spiritual, and it's so difficult because they burn all the good books in Alexandria and all the libraries, around the world. So, and they rewrote again many scriptures and books. So the Bible that we see now, it's like a Mickey Mouse version. It's totally, let's say it's been changed. We've been lied. And it's also Upanishads, every religion. I don't think there's really truly good book that you can say it's authentic. They've been messing with books for a long time. But those are two pedals, a little bit of abstinence and get some knowledge. Abstinence from your desires. If you know that you have desire to drink alcohol, just walk the other way. If you don't walk by the bar, walk around the bar so you don't even see that environment. Just don't look at it. Same thing with casinos. Just don't go to Atlantic City and Las Vegas and whatever casinos areas. If you know yourself that you have strong desire to gamble, just avoid it in the beginning. A little bit of abstinence, and if it's too much pressure, do a little bit of it, intellectually, and then eventually you'll get wisdom. And once you have wisdom, nothing can go wrong. And this is the next aspect, is a really good one, an important one. As you age, udana is no longer sharp, and you can lose the power and vitality. So let's ridicule those people who think, oh, when I retire, that's when I'm gonna do all the spiritual work. I'll have some time. By the time you retire, the capacity to think fresh, absorb new thoughts and ideas, it's more fun. So the younger the better. If you start your spiritual work young, I wish I was younger than I started. I started when I was 34, I believe. That's 10 years ago. But slowly and gradually, you will notice your intellect gets sharper, you become more stable in your emotions, and you naturally become happy as you are. And talking about desires, let's also point out, if it's true, but a lot of scriptures point to this, that the last desire that leaves you is lust. So basically, out of all your desires that you write down in the notebook, lust is the last one to be eliminated. And here I'm going to use the example of that. It's from Upanishads. It's Shiva, god of destruction. Before he became was meditating. And in the process of meditation, you eliminate your vasanas. So he's almost there, and this god, Indra, powerful, it's a mind god, mind gamble, right? Mind game. So this Indra sends the most beautiful woman to seduce him. So Shiva takes his eyes and looks at her, and he's covered with dust. That's how long he's been meditating. He sees her, and I guess no desire, but he picks up some dust from his body, throws at this woman, and she becomes even more beautiful. So the idea of this story is, once you get close to enlightenment, everything becomes meaningless in this material world, because everything has a beginning and the end. Pleasure starts and pleasure ends. When you reach God, it's everlasting bliss. And that everlasting bliss of enlightenment contains all the pleasures that all of us experience, including animals and birds, from getting fulfilled desires. So imagine that pleasure you get from the ice cream, the best ice cream. So good. Or best car that you got, you're so happy. Imagine all those pleasures from all of us together, collectively, in the whole universe. That's the bliss you experience constantly when you become enlightened. Oh my God, right? You can, at this point that you can, right? You don't have knowledge, you don't know what is enlightenment, but you have to have faith that one day you'll get there, right? So when you see a, and that's my next point, when you see a 90-year-old grandma or grandpa, you can almost have to be knowingly sure that they have some kind of desire for 20-year-old girls or boys, because they're looking at them still with lust. Their body might not have capacity to have sex anymore, but the desires are still there, because that's the last desire to leave you. So, and they get frustrated because when you get so old, but you still have that desire and you did not eliminate, you didn't do spiritual work, it's very frustrating. For example, in my family, my father died at the age of 62. And my mother, according to my mother, she said, oh, he became so good right before he died. He stopped drinking alcohol, he stopped smoking cigarettes. And, you know, I don't want to argue with my mother, but I didn't want to say it, but he did not eliminate the desire for cigarettes and alcohol right before he died. He knew that he was suffering so much, his body had no capacity to do cigarettes and alcohol anymore. That's the only way he was not doing it, because he was physically not capable of doing it. Otherwise, he would still do it. You know, it's so not easy to let go of desires. And yeah, my father did not pedal to spiritual enlightenment. He was not doing abstinence or getting knowledge. He was not even going to the church, and he felt lies, which is a lot of people feel lies from mainstream churches, which is true. Most people who are in those buildings, they are, let's not call them charlatans, they are spiritual wannabes, right? They want to be spiritual. They pretend, they play the role. They are social workers. You know, they do a lot of interesting, good stuff, and some of them pretend to be spiritual. Very good, very good. I met some people who are really good at pretending, but they are blind leading the blind. The blind priests leading the blind people who come to them. And my sister was very close to my father. My mother was more religious, so I was reading the Bible when I was like 14 years old. But my sister was more closer to my father. So at this point, my sister says, there's no God. She's admitting, like, I'm 48 years old and there is no God. She has no fear, no shame. And that's interesting, that spark of God within her, I know that it's in her, allows her to say it. You know. So why is this spark of God within us allows us to do good or bad? Well, you can look at God as fuel, gasoline in a car, or electricity for all the gadgets. So let's look at the fuel. Same kind of fuel. Let's put it regular fuel. Regular fuel you put in many different cars, and they have different capacity, different engine sizes, right? But fuel doesn't have interest for you to get from point A to point B. If the car stays in the garage for 10 years, so what? It's just fuel. You opportunity to go or not go. Also, if you get into a car accident, you cannot blame fuel. It's a bad fuel. No, it's the driving. Who's driving the accident? So basically, God gives us the energy. Same thing with electricity. The refrigerator, the dishwasher, the heater, the cooler, all uses the same electricity. But electricity doesn't heat up or cool down. It uses its gadgets to do different things, right? So it gives us energy. That spark of God is the same in every one of us. And you have to have an intellect to notice it. You have to really see God everywhere at all times to become enlightened. Notice it everywhere, at all times. And many people do this mistake after they read few books, listen to some lectures. They think, oh, I know God now. I know all the theory, that's it, I'm done. No, that's not enough. You have to repeat it again and again until you reach enlightenment. Because theory about God, it's out there. The practice is more important. Once you know, you use it and apply it into your daily life, repeat it again and again, and it's a process of becoming. And you cannot become saint in one night, so it's a slow, gradual process. And when you get to enlightenment, you will know. I mean, after the meditation, you eliminate all your vasanas, all your desires. It's not going to be like a question of, oh, is it really happening to me? Am I enlightened? You will know for sure. They explain it as thousands of suns rising at the same time. So it's not going to be any doubt in you that you are there. So until you there, keep on digging, keep on doing spiritual work, keep on pedaling, abstinence, get more knowledge, abstinence, a little bit of abstinence, a little bit, you don't need much, a little bit of abstinence, get more knowledge. Here's another one, a good quote that you can write down. You obtain knowledge through sight and tuition, wisdom by insight and intuition. So once again, you obtain knowledge through sight and wisdom by insight and intuition. So that spark of God is within you. We just have to uncover it, unveil it, and it's there. The wisdom in you will start shining brighter and brighter. And many people are afraid of enlightenment. Oh my God, lose everything? How can I live without desires? So that's why Jesus was saying, fear not. And I think in the Bible, it says 365 times in the Bible, fear not. So for every day of the year, you should not be afraid that one day you will get there, you will become enlightened, just fear not. And recently, I hear a lot of bad things said about gurus and teachers. They just have a lot of clowns on YouTube and many other media sources, social media, who are saying, you don't need a guru, you are independent, sovereign, you have to be very angry people. No, gurus are actually very helpful if you have one, if you're lucky enough to have one, because you will get certain road blockages on your spiritual journey, and it's nice to ask somebody a question who knows. Those gurus who are 100% enlightened, they will answer your questions in the best possible way for you at that time, at that moment. And let's look at this word guru, what it actually means. It comes from two parts, gu-ru, right? Gu is dirt, or vasanas, desires that cover you, right? Ru means removal, get rid of. So dirt removal. So basically a guru is someone who removes dirt. And yes, it's true. There are many people say, oh, they're thieves. Gurus are thieves. In some way it's so, because what they steal, they actually steal your desires. They help you to eliminate your desires. So yes, in a way they are thieves. They help you by stealing all your desires, getting rid of all your desires so you become free. and liberate it. So yeah, gurus are best thieves who steal all your desires. And they cannot do it for you. They can only teach you how to do it. You have to do it yourself, right? So you can have the best spiritual teacher right next to you, but he cannot sell you his wisdom. You cannot purchase it. You cannot transfer it. It cannot be handed down. It's impossible. It takes time for you to grow. But yeah, if you look at many mainstream religions, I'm sure if you have opportunity to put some clothing that will make you look like a Roman Pope, you will quickly learn how to talk politely, monotone voice, and pretend to be a saint. But that doesn't mean you are. It's just pretension. Nice clothing. You will get a lot of benefits of that job, and you will listen to a lot of lectures how other people, other spiritual, say things, the mannerism, and yeah. Let's talk about a little bit of a spiritual forbidden topic, something that is happening till this day, I guess. The sexual abuse, of teenagers, because church, unfortunately, it's still they real humans, and they hire people. They need people to work for the environment. And there was a Hollywood movie who I forgot the name of it, but they talked about how this was happening in the United States. And when they were interviewing one boy, when he was an adult later on, he's like, well, at that time when I was young, I looked at the priests as part of God. So how do you say no to God? So that was a big word from that movie, that how do you say no to God? And then also I had some friends from Pennsylvania, and they were telling me that the church was closed because of some kind of sexual abuse, and parents sued them, and they paid some money, and they had to close the church. So imagine if there's no people, good people to run the church, they just close down. And it's all because of sexual oppression of their sexual desires, because they still have them. They were not able to eliminate them. So yeah, we live in this world where it's very difficult to become enlightened. And the figure that I've heard, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's supposedly 1 out of the million. So imagine 1 million people, and only one person out of all of them will get enlightened in this lifetime. And that's not a high number. So okay, I already talked about enlightenment being the sum of all your fulfilled desires, so you can only imagine how it feels. So here's another good quote that you can write down about your desires. When you lose it all, you gain it all. Once again, when you lose it all, you gain it all. And that's about desires. When you lose all your desires, you gain everything. You become enlightened. So yeah, losing all the desires is not easy. It's a distant future for most of us. But for now, remember that where you are right now, it's a result of all your past actions. Because all your past desires have led you to where you are now. Karma is basically cause and effect. So right now you are an effect, past cause. So we're going to talk about karma probably in some future videos, but it's also important in your nowadays present desires. They don't come from nowhere. They are the result of all your past desires and actions and words and deeds and where you are now. So everything that's happening to you now, don't blame God, have mercy on me, don't blame your neighbors or anybody. It's you. You have to always ask yourself, what's wrong with me? That's another one you can write down in your notebook. What's wrong with me? Question mark. And you can put the list of things that is wrong with you because you have so many desires that are agitating you right now. What's wrong with me? Because God is perfect. This whole universe is working like a perfect clock. Cause and effect. Beginning, end. If you put some mediocre effort, you'll get mediocre results. If you put great effort, you'll get great results. So God is much smarter than your smartphone. It's like a perfect smartphone with much more capacity to calculate all the things that is happening right now. And another one you can also write down is you get what you deserve, not what you desire. You get what you deserve, not what you desire. It's a really good one. But right now, most people are stuck in the imaginary spiral of imaginary future happiness from the desire yet to be fulfilled. So there's a word samsara. You probably heard of it. You can also look into it. Samsara is a good word. That spiral of desires, the string of desires that you are going around and around, and with every desire you think, oh, this is it, this is the last one. As soon as I finish kindergarten and go to school, I'll be happy. Then in school you think, oh, as soon as I finish school and go to university, I'll be happy. And then in the university, it's like, as soon as I finish university and get a job, I'll be really happy. As soon as I get a new job, so it never ends. That's samsara. It keeps on going around and around, and it keeps on repeating and repeating and circling. It doesn't circle in the same exact way, but it's always similar. So I don't like to bring bad news, but in this video, we're gonna do it. So nothing will be good in your life until you merge with nothing. You think, from your desires, you are getting some happiness. You're getting somewhere. You're getting nowhere. Zero. And lies are fun. I know it's a lot of so-called gurus speaking like, oh, it's easy, it's fun, let's meditate together on this date and this time on the full moon. Lies are very much fun recently, but truth is boring. The truth is kind of boring because it's truth. So you keep on believing all these clowns who are agitating you. You think they're helping you, but they're actually agitating you because they telling you need something from outside of yourself. As soon as you get this new tattoo that we sell you, you'll be happy because you're gonna look so cool. As soon as you get this box of candies, this is it. Get a huge cross, nice cross. I remember in school, we had this girl, she came to class and she was wearing a huge cross. Like a look at me cross. So the cross it's a symbol of crossing all your desires. You have to eliminate all your desires, put the cross on them. And most people look at this ritual, putting the cross, and they don't even think that they have to do something. They think, oh, I'm Christian. They don't think they have to actually do something as a Christian. Same thing with candles. In Russian Orthodox Church, they burn these tiny little candles, tiny, skinny candles. And it's also symbology. You have to burn them to the ground. All your desires have to burn. So even if you put a huge box of candles and burn them, nothing will happen. Desires are still there. It's a ritual. You cannot eliminate your desires just by ritualistic practices. We already talked about it, right? Or some people get these icons and put in the corner of their room. My neighbor, she has them lit up, put in the electrical wire, and they actually dance and shine and the light going on. So she's kind of rich in this neighborhood and she can afford this kind of stuff because most people have a tiny little, icon of Jesus in the corner that doesn't have electricity and stuff. But she has electricity and she thinks she's better. And she actually was trying to prove me that she's almost saint. And yet I know she's so far away from it. But yeah, people, it's arrogance. It's a lot of we get into this maze of our desires and you get delusional. You get delusional with all the desires. Some people think that if they go for the full moon meditation, they'll get somewhere, or participate in some kind of ceremony in the church, or sing a prayer in a choir, or burn rice or ghee, like in India, they burn rice and ghee offering to gods. Nothing will happen. People think as soon as I get this new house, a new job, new child, new vacation, better food, more fame. No. It's a slow and gradual process. Eliminating your desires is not easy. So remember the two pedals: a little bit of abstinence, getting more knowledge. A little bit of abstinence, getting more knowledge. And for now, practice renunciation in action. So as you do something, don't be attached to what you do. Just do what you ought to do, but don't have this possessive obsession, like I have to do it. I gotta do it. Just do what you ought to do in your life. Keep your eye on the goal, enlightenment, and work for humanity. Don't just work for yourself and your family. Open up yourself to bigger picture. Your community, your town, your country, all living beings. Do it for everybody, whatever you do. And there are other two terms that we're going to discuss at the end of this video. Is best to work in your field that is good for your character, according to it's consistent with your inherent nature. So the term is svadharma. So svadharma, dharma is your purpose in life, right? What you do in life. So activities that are consistent to your inherent nature, they are svadharma. And if you do something against your nature, that it's paradharma. And you're going to be very frustrated if you're doing something that is against your nature. Examples, let's say as a child, you notice that the child likes to sing and dance, and you force them to go to become a lawyer or doctor because it's more money. They'll be not happy because they're doing something against their internal nature, svadharma. And they say it's very important you will evolve quicker, you will become enlightened much quicker if you do what you like, basically, what is pleasant for you. But don't have this mistake. A lot of people drink alcohol and they say, oh, it's my svadharma, it's my nature. That's lie. Because a lot of people get addicted to substances, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, and they think, my grandfather, everybody. No. It's not svadharma. It's just temporary pleasure that destroys your health pretty much. So I think I got all my notes. Wow, it was a long video. I hope you, oh, I have one little tiny note here. This was, I wrote right before this video. Yes, I used a lot of terminology from the Upanishads and from Vedas, Vedanta. So look into it. Advaita Vedanta is a really good one. Advaita means non-dual. So when you say God is one, because that's a lot of people fighting. Oh, our God is better. Allah, Buddha, Jesus. God is one. It's true. But when you say one, you always kind of think, oh, where's the second one, third one? You know, number one always makes you think that it should be number 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. So that's why Advaita, non-dual. So that's a better way to describe God, that it's non-dual, one. So when you see God in all, that's enlightenment. But if you don't see God in all, you don't see God at all. You know, and that's that ego inside of us that allows us to play this game, Maya, illusion of duality. But it's not. So everything is one God. It's non-dual. So Vedanta is a really good one, Advaita Vedanta. Veda means knowledge, Anta, end. So it's the ultimate knowledge, the end of knowledge. Because every part of knowledge has a limit. You will never know the whole chemistry. You will never know the whole thing about math. It's insatiable. It's infinite. And people who really study, they'll tell you that I know it a lot or enough, but I don't know it all. And it's in every field, medical practice, car mechanics, you know, it's so many new cars and new every day that evolve and it's infinite. But God is something that has infinity within it. Once you reach God, you reach everything. And let's end with this quote from Jesus Christ. Empty thyself, and I shall fill thee. Write this down. The really good one. Also about your desires. Empty thyself, and I shall fill you. So when you become totally free, totally empty of all your desires, Jesus comes into your heart, right? A lot of pictures, Jesus points to the heart, like, look, it's inside the heart. The whole universe, the whole creation is already within you. It's inside the heart. You just have to eliminate the desires. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took a lot of quotes. You can watch this video maybe a few times. Varam, varam, repeat again and again. And I hope you get enlightened very quick, soon, sooner than you think. Because if you apply constant practice, you will get there. And they do say it's possible within this lifetime. They also say it's very difficult, not easy, but it's possible within this lifetime. So please subscribe to my channel, press the like, comment, share. Thank you for your donations. I appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Much love to all of you from Belarus. Bye-bye.